Hello everyone, my name is Lewis and I am the commentator for StarCraft Sports Network, coming to you once again for another computer-based tutorial. This will actually be about Linux and not Windows this time. We'll be setting up a Linux box, a computer with two network cards, one built in and most likely the other one being PCI, to be our DHCP server, our gateway, and our firewall to the internet for our entire network, including wireless users. So this will actually be pretty cool, and doing this is actually very flexible, and actually there's been some people, including myself, that have seen some huge network improvement, not so much network improvement but internet improvement by doing this. So this is very, very cool. This is actually going to be a 3 video tutorial. The first one will show you how to set up DHCP and go over the concepts. The second one will be going over IP tables and some concepts around that. And the third one will be about security. It's kind of optional, but it's about making sure that no one can shell into your computer, root can't log in, that sort of thing, any of that. So we'll be going over those things. So first and foremost, we'll be going over DHCP. Prerequisites, obviously two network interface cards in your computer. Most likely one of them is built in, depending on your system, and then you'll have one that needs to be a PCI card. And then depending on how Linux decided to treat them will depend on which one is ETH0 and ETH1. So adjust accordingly. Do not follow this if you're using FreeBSD. If you're using Debian or anything else Debian based, you might have to do things a little bit differently. For example, installing the package we'll be installing, which is the DHCP package. So look out for that. But if you're using CentOS, Fedora, or RHEL, then you can most likely follow this tutorial. So anyway, let's get started. Also, when you install it, make sure you do not install it with an X server. We're going to be doing everything from the command line. Period. Everything needs to be done from the command line. We do not need the overhead. So also we got to make sure we have IPv6 off as well, which I'm pretty sure you were able to do in the setup as well. So anyway, we're going to be doing everything as root. So let's log in as root. Bam. So the first thing that we need to run is a command to install DHCP. So yum is the package manager for CentOS, Fedora, and all those other ones that are RPM based. So let's type yum space install and then DHCP. Wait a minute. It's gonna take a while for me. I'm not sure about you. It might be very quick for you. Anyway, it's gonna ask you if it's okay. Put Y and then enter, and it'll install DHCP, and then that's that. So now we got to decide. Now we got to decide what IP scheme we're going to use. So if you cannot figure out which one is ETH0 and ETH1, you can actually look at the comment file of the comment inside of the files we're about to edit. So, and that'll be able to help you differentiate between the PCI card and the built-in. So let's get started. So now we're going to assume ETH0 will be your built-in, and that one will be the one that connects to the modem, so we won't have to mess with that one. And ETH1 is your PCI card, so we'll assume that. So using your favorite editor, Nano, Pico, Vi, whatever you use it to open up this file. In my case, I'll use Vi. And if you're using Vi and you don't know how to use it, or you want to learn it, follow along. So Vi space /etc. This is where all of our files, all of our configuration files go. /sysconfig /network -scripts /ifcfg -eth1. And that's the common thing I'm talking about. It tells you what kind of device you have running. So anyway, most likely in ETH1 or whatever device you picked, it'll most likely that the one that's not connected to any network will most likely say the boot protocol is DHCP or even static. Not sure. Most likely DHCP, and then the on boot will say no, especially if it doesn't have anything plugged in. So for boot proto, if you're using Vi, press I for insert. Boot protocol needs to be static, lowercase letters. Go down to on boot, and if it says no, change it to yes. I mean, mine was already set to yes, but I got rid of it just to show the example. So now you can go ahead and go back up to boot proto and make a new line. by just pressing enter. So now we got to start making our IP scheme. So let's type IPADDR in capital letters, an equal sign, and then let's give us a number. We'll use Shane's kind of scheme, 10.240.100.1. This one will be the gateway, so we're going to leave it with the .1 to make it easy. Enter. Net mask, which is another way of saying subnet mask. So 255.255.255.0. Enter. And then network, which is the ID of the network, which is 10.240.100.0. Whatever scheme you're using, it needs to end with a 0. The last number needs to be a 0. It cannot be 2, it can't be 20, it can't be any of that. It needs to be 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And that's pretty much all you got to put into this one. So if you're using Vi, press escape, hold shift, WQ. For all the other editors, press X and then enter Y and then save, I guess, or overwrite. I think that's what Nano does. I don't remember anymore. So I got that down. So now to make sure everything is working properly, we can actually type in service space network, if I can spell it right, space restart. So it'll go through and shut down every interface, including ETH0. And then it's going to go through DHCP, get ETH0 and IP address, which it did. Now it's going to bring up ETH1, and there we go. If it gave us an OK, then the static address is working. So we can actually confirm it's working. Go ifconfig space ETH1, enter. There we go. Perfect. Everything's looking good as planned. So now we got to edit the DHCP file. So using your favorite editor, vi space etc. Notice how all of our configuration files are etc related. That's what Linux does. So type in DHCPD, because that's the name of the service, dot conf, which stands for configuration. Press enter. Now you'll be brought to a blank file. So you can move all the way down if you're using Vi, using the arrow, the down arrow key, press O to make a new line. So now everything I'm about to type here, it'll be in the video comments if you miss it. So I'll be able to help you out. That'll be able to help you out. Or if you want to just see it on the screen, you can pause it. It's however you want to do it. So let's get rolling here. The very first thing we need to put in is DNS minus update minus style interim semicolon. This will make sure that all clients that connect to this PC will receive the DNS information from this computer. And then type in allow booting, which means any computers connected that are turned off and the network interface is still rolling, it'll make sure to get an IP address. Allow boot P. Boot P is a similar thing, but an older protocol. The other thing that booting can actually do is make sure a system can get an IP address before it even starts up an operating system, which is actually good for Pixie booting. And I'll actually be putting a file name option in this file for a Pixie kind of deal. So if you end up setting a Pixie server right here, this is perfect, especially if you want to install Linux in 4 minutes off a network. So I'll press enter. Now we got to go ignore client updates. This is kind of a domain thing. So if you want to make sure that nothing domain name based gets passed around, you might want to turn this off. Ignore client updates, because we know for a fact we're not on a domain. You can actually look up more information online about ignore client updates. I think that's pretty much what it does. I may be wrong, so there you go. You can correct me if I'm wrong. It's however it works. Next line needs to be set space vendor class, all one word, space equals space option vendor class identifier. I don't remember why I put this in here. It was like 1 in the morning, but the DHCPD never complained. So enter. So now we got to put our IP information, subnet 10.240.100.0. It is the same line we put in the ifcfg file for ETH1, the network line. So then we go net mask afterwards. Remember, there's a space between 0 and net space, and then the subnet mask that we set up in that file space, and then a squiggly bracket that's opening up on the left. Enter tab option router. So we got to set the IP of the gateway. 10.240.100.1 for my example, semicolon, enter, option, domain name servers. Now, depending on your domain, servers will reflect what the IPs are. In my example, these I actually have two, 68.105.28.11, and then put a comma to separate it, 68.105.29.11, semicolon, and that information will be passed on to all the other clients so they can actually hit the internet, which will be actually kind of useful. Enter, tab, option, subnet dash mask. Yes, we got to put this in again. Tab twice, 255.255.255.0, semicolon, enter. Range, now we got to choose what IPs will actually be allowed. 10.240.100.100 space 10.240.100.254. That is the default for most standard stock routers anyway, 100 through 254. Semicolon. Enter, tab, file name. Now this is the thing for Pixie if you plan on setting it up. /pxe linux.0, end quote, semicolon, enter. Now most of these things are default, so you might not have to put this in, but I'm putting it in here so that way if you want to modify it, you can. Default dash lease dash time, tab, 21,600, semicolon. That is the amount of time that an IP address can be allowed to a MAC address up until it's no longer connected when the timer goes off. Max dash lease dash time, same concept, but just the max amount of time an IP can stay true. So we'll say 43,200, semicolon, enter. Next dash server, because DHCPD requires this line. Don't ask me why. 10.100, no, my bad. 10.240.100.1, semicolon, enter, and then close it up with another squiggly bracket going the opposite direction. There you go. Now you have your DHCP configuration set up. Now if you want to add some extra addresses, like if you want to add a PC to have its own IP, we'll do this. Host, and then the name of the system, squiggly bracket, enter, tab, hardware, space, Ethernet, space, and then the MAC address of that system. You can find it, you can actually find it in ipconfig, believe it or not. ipconfig / all on Windows. I won't be showing you how to do that, sadly. Semicolon, enter, fixed dash address, fixed address space, and then give it an IP, 10.240.100.101. So it'll always be given that IP. Enter, close it with another squiggly bracket, enter, hold, and if you're using Vi, press escape, shift : WQ to save. Save the file no matter what editor you're in. So now it's written. So now we can see if it'll actually start up. So type in service, DHCPD, start, and if it says OK, you have no typos. If it says failed, you need to check it over and make sure you have no typos. And that's that. So now we got to make sure DHCP starts up every time we start up our computer. So we're going to use a program called check config. CHK config, all one word, space, dash list, DHCPD. So we can see that it's off on all run levels. So let's type chk config dash dash level. So we want it to start up on level 3 and level 5. So dash dash level 35 space DHCPD space on. That'll turn it off. And then if we run the list command, we see that run level 3 and run level 5 is on. So that concludes this part of the tutorial for setting up the DHCP. The next tutorial will actually show you how to set up the NAT and making sure everyone can actually get through this computer to get onto the internet without having problems. Setting up the NAT, the network address translation, all that stuff. So anyway, hope to see you in the next video. Keep in touch.